Good afternoon. Good afternoon, colleagues. Welcome, or still the morning. Welcome back. Hope everyone's back on the call. Before I get started, I see there's a question here from, doesn't say MG meeting guest. For clarity's sake, would like to ask if law states export tariff credit must be time of use. Yes, that's the law. And how to handle normal bidirectional metering for non-time of use customers. Colleagues, whoever asked the question, it would be nice for you to just unmute yourself quickly, just maybe ask me in person so I understand better. Because in my mind, you are right, the first sentence, the law states that, yes, right? And then for time of use tariffs, you must use your normal bidirectional meter. But for non-time of use customers, so is this when you want to introduce an export on SSEG tariff or net billing tariff or feed-in tariff to a non-time of use customer? Is that the case? If I understand you correctly. The rules have been quite clear with regards to that. If you do decide to introduce non-time export credits to non-time of use customers, must substantiate why. But if you are able, correct, to unmute yourself and just explain to me, then I would be of better help. And I'm thinking even our colleagues could be of help. There. All right, colleagues, while we wait for that, yeah, where are we? Where are we? We are at examples of EG customer bills. I'll go through that for the next couple of minutes. And after that, colleagues, we will have a nice question and answer session just to find or to suss out from the colleagues if we've been together this morning. So it's just a questions on some of the content that we've covered. And then we'll get into our data requirements check session. So what that session will entail, if you remember, I mentioned that there's certain data that we need. So firstly, we want to test out the breakaway room. We want to allocate breakaway rooms accordingly to colleagues. Once that works out, everyone knows the groups they are in. Then in those groups, we want to then discuss for 30 minutes or so the data that is required and the data that is critical for tomorrow, for you to come tomorrow with that data. All right. Okay. Let me waste no time. Let me waste no time and let us look at some bills. Let me rather share my screen rather than a window. Okay. Colleagues, are you able to see my screen? If I do this a bit. I see a thumbs up. There we go. There we go. Colleagues, I must also mention, you know, when I started my this training in the morning, at no point did I claimed to be an expert in this topic. Just that I know it quite well. I've done it a couple of times, but of course, there's always room for improvement. So colleagues are more than welcome to provide or add into the little knowledge that we have of such topics. So I just want to put that out there that this is a learning session, so we must constantly share learnings. All right. So what I've viewed here is a bill, right? It's one of our municipality bills of one of our customers, of one of their customers. So this is an electricity bill, this particular place that I'm showing now. All right. We are mostly interested to find out how do some municipalities bill currently, or in this case in 2023, how do they handle, e.g. tariffs or net billing tariffs or feed-in tariff or export credits, right? So we've got a customer here, residential customer, residential SSEG, right? This customer of ours consumed about 40.68 kilowatt hours in that month, and the rate was R2.28, right? So in totality, that bill was 92.98, right? So also, colleagues, 2023, the rules were not there, okay? So the rules were not there. And then the generation offset. So now this is, because we are dealing with a prosumer, so this is the energy they feed back to the grid, which is 169.610 kilowatt hours, around 170 kilowatt hours, at this export credit, right? At this export credit. So this is the credit that the municipality provides or gives to the customer. They call it generation offset, but this is a credit, which then accounts for 133.96 rands, right? So they used around 40.6 kilowatt hours, and the bill was 92.98 rand. They sold back to the municipality around 169.6 kilowatt hours, and this is how much they should have been credited for, right? And then the generation offset incentive. So this municipality has an incentive for EG customers to improve their business case. Going back to incentives, it's just an incentive over and above the export credit, just to make sure that firstly to improve registrations, also to encourage the uptake of embedded generation. Okay, so not much focus on that for us. We are mostly interested with the generation offset, but it also important. It signifies the importance of incentives, right? So this is unique to this particular municipality. And that incentive accounted to like 42 rands and 40 cents. And then there's a basic charge, a fixed charge, and then this municipality also introduces another fixed administrative fee, right? So this is a bill. And my question to us, to ourselves, colleagues, is based on the rules that I've interpreted earlier on, would this bill or this methodology be applicable? Right. So maybe let me answer that, and then when we get to the next one, we can start to maybe share some thoughts. So firstly, the bill or the rules speak about time of use, right? The consumption per time of use. So this consumption was a flat consumption throughout the day. So no time of use, a flat tariff, right? So it's already deviating from what is required in those rules. Remember, this was before the rules. So now that the rules are here, so this would not be in line with the rules, unless, of course, this municipality provides reasoning as to why they've decided to move with tariffs that are not on time of use, and how do they plan into the future to make this tariff time of use, right? Because the consumption is not time of use, then the generation offset or the export credit also will not be on time of use. It's also flat in nature, right? So then there is that slight deviation. But with this tariff, what is nice, they do have a fixed charge, right? Remember the key thing in those rules, they said that you must offset against your rands per kilowatt hours or cents per kilowatt hours, right? You must offset against your variable charges. So what I'm seeing here is that the generation offset has been offset against the entire bill. What do I mean? You see the generation offset is more than the consumption. The rules at this point, the rules are saying at this point, this generation offset, if it was according to the rules, it wouldn't be more than 92.98. It would stop at 92.98 and anything extra would move to the next month, right? But here it's saying, no, it's fine. And it compares to the entire bill, not just the energy charge, but the entire bill. So if I take out my calculator, for example, I say, so 92.98 ACE, 92.98, right? Then I say minus 133.96, right? Minus the second incentive, right? Then plus 185 plus 83.65. You see, then the total bill for this customer, this 185.27, is against the entire bill. And the rules are saying, actually, it must be only offset against, it must only be offset against the energy charge. I hope colleagues were understanding. Of course, I'm going to show another one, and then I'm going to open a nice spreadsheet for us to further explain some of these. All right, let me go to our office building. So this office that I'm currently in, they're also a customer to this municipality. Right. So for this office building, this is the same time, or this is at a time when the rules were not promulgated. All right. So in our office, it's now a commercial small power user. This is the consumption, 319.643 kilowatt hours at this rate. You see, it's also not time of use. And then the total bill was 637.62. The generation offset, the office generated around 1,142 kilowatt hours. It consumed around 319.643 kilowatt hours, and it generated around this much at this incentive, at this export credit. If you look at the bill, net billing, if we look at the bill, we already see first it wasn't on time of use. Okay, fine. If not on time of use, you can substantiate why. But also, you must be offset against the rents per kilowatt hours, the energy charge. If we look at this one, we already see that, wow, the offset is significantly higher than the consumption, and it still remains in the bill, right? If we followed the rules, this bill would not exceed 637.62. Anything else would pass over to the next month, right? Okay, they still have an incentive, which is nice. And then there's a basic charge of around 69 rand, right? So this is the total amount that the customer is paying, right? So you see that once again, we have offset against the entire bill. How do we see that? Where's my calculator? A calculator. There we go. I'm going to do another simple calculation. 637.62. That is the bill for the energy we use. And I say minus 844.05. That is the generation offset. Minus, of course, 285.65. What is that? That is the incentive. Plus, of course, 2308, which is the basic charge. Look, you see. So in this particular case, the generation offset is being offset against the entire bill. That is not what the rules are saying. So for this particular municipality, then there is a small challenge, of course, to substantiate why they will continue in this way, of course. But of course, the rules have given room for substantiating to say, if it's not on time of use, please substantiate why and how do you intend to introduce time of use. But what is not open for discussion in my interpretation is that you must offset against the energy charge and not the entire bill. So this municipality will then have to then engage, of course, NESA moving forward on how to on how does the municipality and the rules meet each other halfway. So I thought it was an interesting case study, you know, because for many years I'm sure municipalities have asked for the rules from the regulator, and then only late last year when some municipalities were far ahead with the introduction of these export credits. But now, of course, there is then that challenge. And of course, colleagues, let's not forget this service charge and this consumption charge must be informed by a cost of supply study that supports your tariff application. All right. So now let us look at something that we can work with. I think we can apply in the recent rules. Let us look at. So this is another municipality, colleagues. This one is better for our purposes, right? So we have a customer here in this municipality. They are paying a basic charge, 75.19, right? So this is a monthly charge. They're paying a capacity charge of 180 amps, which accounts to 817.2 in that month, in that particular month. So this is the billing month. Also, this was before the rules were in place. So the municipality sells, or the municipality sells to this customer at time of use. So this is the customer consumption. All right. Let us see. Over to you, sir. No, you are free to ask. Yes, over to you.
Yeah. Now just a quick one, the basic charge. Can you just give a little bit of guidance in terms of how that charge comes together based on what is it determined?
Okay. Thank you for that question.
Single phase, three phase, etc., etc. Thank you.
All right. Okay. So a basic, colleagues, first things first, when you determine an electricity tariff, like how Zibo has explained, when you determine electricity tariff, you follow the cost of supply framework. And the framework states to us that to do rate design, to design tariff, we must first do what we call a cost of supply study. And in the cost of supply study, essentially what we are trying to say is, how much does it cost me to provide electricity to my customers? And we know that to supply different customers is most likely going to cost slightly different because of the effort it takes. And secondly, the position in the electricity network, right? So within your utility business or your municipal business, there are those costs that remain the same month to month, right? Those costs that remain the same month to month, right? Like your salaries, etc. And then you have costs that are a result of your infrastructure investment, right? So for example, making available your transformers, your overhead or underground cables, your kiosk, your switching stations, whatever the case may be. So you have availed this infrastructure to provide electricity. So that's another cost. So your fixed costs that don't change are your basic charges, like your salary costs or whatever the case may be. And then your capacity charges will be related to your infrastructure investments, related to those transformers and substations and mini subs, etc. Right. So these two costs. So when you do a cost of supply study, then you say, to cover my entire fixed cost, how much do I need to recover from each individual customer to cover my fixed basic charges on a month-to-month basis? How much do I need to recover from each individual customer? So this is where the basic charge is. You charge basic charges in an ideal world to all your customers. But of course, colleagues, we know the reality is that we can't introduce fixed costs to all our customers because of our socio-economic conditions. But colleagues, all this is saying is that if you collect the basic charges from all of your customers, you then cover your entire, for example, operational costs, your salaries, your repairs and maintenance, all those costs that are most likely to be the same over a financial year, right? So that is where that is coming from. And capacity charge is just for your infrastructure investments. All right. But all of these numbers, colleagues, they are determined by a cost of supply stat. There's no other way to know. All right. I hope that answers you. So I'm going to continue with this particular customer. So my customer has done, so the municipality has done a cost of supply study. They know what is the basic charge for this customer. They know what is the capacity charge. They even know the time of use tariffs that they must charge each customer. There it is unit cost, you see. In peak period, they pay around 2 rands. Standard time around 1.5, off peak around 1 rand, right? So they already have time of use tariffs, meaning that this is the generation offset, colleagues. You see this one purchase. So this is, in this case, how much is the municipality purchasing from this particular customer, right? So there is that. So because this customer has time of use energy charges, then they can have time of use export credits or generation offsets or whatever you want to call it, right? Or net billing tariffs, right? Which is in line with each time of use, right? So at this stage, this customer sort of fits the requirements, of these net billing rules, right? All of this is determined by a cost of supply study, except this part 678. 678 is why you are here in this training, to determine the generation offset, export credit, or feed-in tariff, or export charge, or net billing tariff, right? So the export, this is why you are here. Everything else would have been determined through a cost of supply study. All right. So from a high level perspective, colleagues, I'm seeing that this customer actually, it's informed by a cost of supply study. It has fixed and variable charges. It has time of use. This is a match made in heaven with regards to our with our net billing rules. All right. So what I've done is I sort of have a spreadsheet with the same rule, with the same bill. So we focus here. Let me zoom a bit. Right. So I've created the same on a spreadsheet. So let us focus only from column A to E. Let's forget about this first. All right. So I've colored here in purple my fixed costs or so. These are costs that are informed by a cost of supply. All right. These are costs required for sustainability. If you remember Zibu's pie chart. And then this is the time of use energy charge, right? We see that this is how much they are buying per time of use, right? From the utility. And then for each time of use, this is the total cost, right? And then the green, which is why we are here, these are the export credits, time of use export credits. You see, it's 92. Let me just double check before it drives me. All right. So for this custom, actually, for the peak is 92. For the standard, so 92 kilowatt hours used, 720 kilowatt hours, and 271, right? Kilowatt hours is sent back to the distribution grid. So these are the export credits. So this is what Zibu will be showing tomorrow how to design. But what's most important, colleagues, with this tariff is, with this customer is that in my mind, when I first saw it, I was like, wow, this customer actually is in line with what is required by the regulator, right? Because it has all of the elements. And then I said, okay, let me do some calculations. Let me check. So if we look at the subtotal, this is the subtotal of the bill, right? This is the subtotal. So this total bill, is it a subtraction of the energy costs? Is it a subtraction of the energy costs? Or is it a subtraction on the entire bill? That is the question that I was asking myself. Because if it's just the energy costs, then it passes my test. But if it is the entire bill, then it still doesn't align with the NESA net billing rules. All right. So I saw that it doesn't align, colleagues. Right. For example, if we look at the total energy cost here, row number 11, you see, it is a summation of all of the energy usages. So for example, you summate your sales, and then you summate your purchases or your generation offsets, and then you minus, right? Then you get this minus 108.85, right? Which, simply speaking, it is the subtraction of only the energy charges. But colleagues, you remember there's a question that our colleagues asked where they said, and I provided this explanation, that the distributor must design an export tariff for all prosumers subject to approval by NESA that provides a credit for exported energy not more than the consumption during each time of use period. Not more than the consumption during each time of use period. So you must provide a credit, but not more than the consumption. What does this mean? Let us put it practically. You see this customer here, row number 5. They consume 88.175 kilowatt hours, right? And then they sell back how many? They sell back 92.215, colleagues, right? So according to our rules, the ones that I've interpreted here below, this credit here, this unit cost here, can only apply to not more than 88.175. It shouldn't apply to the entire 92.215, right? Here's another example. You see, this is how much they buy. This is how much they fed back. You see, in this time period. And then what do the rules say? The rules say, yes, you can credit, of course, but not more than the consumption of that time of use. It's here, I took it from the rules, not more than the consumption during each time of use period. So I cannot credit this customer for 720. I must credit this customer for not more than 166.82. That is where I stop. Which even, for example, you see in the off-peak, for example, off-peak energy charge is 412.825. You see here in the off-peak, they've sent back less than they've consumed, meaning I can apply to the entire 271. Colleagues, before I continue to explain, I saw a hand up. Please ask, colleagues, because I don't want us to lose each other.
Yes, sir. It was me. I was just trying to figure out, according to this note we have, it says that provides a credit for exported energy not more than. Does that mean that the credit is on the purchase or is on the sale?
Is on the sale, but not more than the consumption. So let's use this one, for example. You see this one, you see it's 412.825, right? This is how much they consumed from you as a utility. But they only gave you back 271.86. So you credit them for 271.86. right? Because it's less than your sale. Your purchase is less than your sale. But at instances where the purchase is more than the sale, you shouldn't credit for more than the sale, if I'm making sense. For example, if we are on 88 here, right? So this is how much they are purchasing. And then they sell you more than they are purchasing. You shouldn't then credit them for more than they are purchasing. You should credit them for not more than they are they are selling. Colleagues, are we together? Are we together with this?
So it's a bit tricky,
Okay.
if I can just come in, right? So
Cool.
the way one would understand it, right, is that
Yeah.
there is a prosumer, right,
There we
who
go.
is able to produce and to sell, right?
Yes. Yes.
So at peak, I can sell what I have generated from my SSEG,
Yes.
and I can sell 88 kilowatts. That's just reading this table. I'm not yet interpreting, but I'm saying that from what I'm saying, it says that yeah. So when you say consumption, yeah, maybe help me there.
Okay. All right. Colleagues, this is a bill, right? This is an actual bill that I got. So now I had left it the way it was written. So now let's do this. Let's interpret it like this now, colleagues. All right. Let us interpret it like this. There we go. We are together. So this is the consumption of this customer, right? This is the energy they export, right? Are we together?
Correct.
This is how,
Correct.
yes, this is how much they use this month. This is how much they exported. There we go. Okay, you can continue.
I was saying now it makes much better sense because I think I was getting lost in the sell purchase and then yeah. So now I get you.
Okay, thank you. Apologies for that, colleagues. I just took the wording exactly as it is from that bill. That's why it became a bit confusing. But essentially, blue is consumption, green is the export. So this customer consumes 88 and exports 92. Consumes 166 at this time, exports 720. Consumes 412, exports 271. So what I was saying, the rules, what they are saying here in this screenshot of mine is that if I consume 88 and I export 92, my export credit cannot be for the entire 92. It must be limited to my consumption at this time. Is that making sense? I see you still have your hand up, Lugelo. I butcher your name. Apologies.
No, name is correct. It was a legacy hand, sorry.
Okay, no problem. There's another hand. Over to you. Colleagues, remember, these are the rules. It's not me. Over to you. I saw a hand up, colleagues. Feel free to ask questions.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Can you hear me? Good morning, all.
Good morning. Good morning. Yes.
Yes, I think what you are not mentioning is that the difference between the export and the import must be carried over to the next month up until the financial year end.
All right. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Clint. Thank you. Thank you for that contribution. You had colleagues must be carried over to the next month. Of course, when we get to the end of the financial year, we start at zero again. Thank you for that, Clint. Next question.
Hi, it's Julie Muir here. Sorry, I know I had my hand up just now and I spoke, but I didn't take my mic off. Sorry. I hear what you say, it's policy, but do you know the reason why it's limited to the quantity and not the rand value? So if the consumption, like you say, it's 88, but they exported 92, why is it limited to 88 and instead of the credit being limited to 187?
That is a good question. You know what I think we should do at some point? We should look at, so every time you promulgate rules, then you provide reasons for decisions, right? So I'll find that document that has the reason for these decisions, right? Then I will share with you, colleagues, unless someone else knows, but the reasons, of course, will tell us. Colleagues, feel free to keep asking questions.
Can I go?
Yeah, sure.
No, thanks.
Thank you. The one where the off-peak energy is 412.82 and then the export is 720. So the export is more than what was used, which brings the calculation
Before you continue, sorry, off-peak is 412 consumption and export is 271. Okay, you can continue.
Sorry, no, I'm talking about the standard. Standard is actually what I was referring to. Apologies for that one.
Okay.
Right. So which brings because now we can now offset basically, as you see, offset those two. What is the total unit cost? Is it minus 678.19?
So this is the total cost, right? So this is the credit. You see the minuses here, these are the export credits. So you multiply the two. You multiply the credit with the kilowatt hours, the credit with the kilowatt hours, the credit with the kilowatt hours.
So did we use the full 720 as the credit there to get to the minus 678.9?
Yes, that's what we used there. But if we apply the net billing rules, where I was going with these colleagues, I was saying, if we apply what is in the rules, right? Then for this customer, 92.215, right? You don't apply the credit to the entire 92.215. You apply the credit to, make a mistake now. You apply the credit to the 88, right? So you say, my bad, you say this one, right? Because it says not more than the consumption of that period, right? For the second one, so for this one, because it's higher than this, you can't take 720. So you take the maximum is the consumption. So you take this and you multiply it. You take D9, you multiply it by this maximum. As Clint said, anything else that is a difference, you carry over to the next month, right? You carry over to the next month. And then the third one, because this one is less than, you see this one off peak is less than the consumption. So you take the actual one, you multiply with the credit. All right. This is my interpretation of 5.2, colleagues. You can continue with your question. I just wanted to explain that so that we are together.
So thank you very much.
Just another question. The banking that you are talking about and taking it over to the following month, is that also in the rule book?
Yes, it's all in the rule book, colleagues. There's nothing I'm doing here today that is from my own, I don't know, my own one. It's all in the rule book. Even the banking is in the rule book. I've spoken about it earlier on.
No, I'm just clarifying that for my own understanding.
I'm
not questioning you per se.
Okay.
No. That was just a follow-up, man, quickly. And
all right.
I will presume that we are working with the financial year. So that the banking might be on your last month. So you forfeit after the financial year.
Yes, at the end of the financial year. The start of a new financial year, you start again with 0 in your bank.
So if you
This is in the rules, colleagues. Let me give you some comfort, because I've read these rules quite extensively. So let me give you some comfort. So these rules I've already spoken about. There we go. So you see in compensation and billing, colleagues, here. It says, I've already shown this, but I'll show it again. You credit on the relevant monthly period. Okay, I've already explained not to be offset against fixed basic or demand charges, but only against energy exported. Not to be compensated in cash. There is the question. Where export compensation exceeds the financial value of energy purchases in that billing period, be carried over to offset future electricity purchases from the distributor, provided such rollover shall not extend into the new financial year of the distributor. All right, colleagues, feel free to ask questions. I'll take from.
Yeah, I just wanna go back to the table that you were showing, sir.
Okay, no.
Okay, so I have a slightly different understanding to the less than, right? From my understanding, I thought, right, would be that, for instance, let's compare peak at 88, and the unit cost is 2 rand per kilowatt, and then your total then gives you 187, right?
Yes.
And then I thought that if you surpass that, then it would be the same multiplication. It would be you would then divert to 88 as your max. But from what I'm understanding, then it means that you are just going to be at 82 multiplied by your unit of 1.3. I think that's where I'm getting lost. When you did the multiplication, please just do that again so that I understand.
Okay. So this, you see on the left here, colleagues, this is the calculations from the actual bill, right? I didn't change anything there. So then here I said, okay, what if I calculated the cost based on my interpretation of the rules, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. Then I said, okay, the rules are saying to me, right, that if, for example, the consumption, actually they are saying here, let me quote them. Provide a credit for exported energy, not more than the consumption during each time of use period, right? You credit exported energy, but not more than the consumption. So consumption in my mind is kilowatt hours, right? Yes. And then credit in my mind will be cents per kilowatt hour, rands per kilowatt hour, right? The credit. And then the consumption. And then time of use will be, of course, peak, standard, and off-peak. So then I interpreted it like this. I say, if you say I must provide a credit, but not more than the consumption of my time of use period, it means I have a credit for my peak energy charges, right? My export, I have a credit for that, right? I know I'm exporting 92.215. Ideally, I would want to multiply my credit with 92.215. But when I look at the rules, they say I must provide a credit, yes, for exported energy, but it must not be more than the consumption during each time of use period. Yes, I want to multiply it by 92, but the rule is saying to me, but it must not be more than the consumption. So then I take D8, I multiply it by the maximum, right? Because it doesn't allow anything above the maximum, right? So that is for the row 8. Then I come to row number 9. I do the same thing. I say, okay, in standard time, I've got 720 that I fed back, right? I consumed 166.82. Of course, ideally, I would want to credit for the entire export. But then I remember, they say I must credit for exported energy, fine, but it must not be more than the consumption during that time of use. Meaning that it must not be more than 166. Yes, I've got 720, but it must not be more than 166, right? So that's why I do that calculation. I multiply with the maximum, right? Of course, the difference, like I've read in the rules, you then carry that over, right? And then here, just to finalize, here, you see here, I've got a credit, but my consumption is not more than my consumption. My consumption, my export is not more than my consumption. We can see that, right?
Sure.
So then I just multiply with that export. But if it was, for example, 800, I would have had to stop at 412.825. Then whatever I'm banking, I take to the next month. Those are the rules. Okay, you can continue, sir.
Thank you, sir. Makes it very, very clear. I just want to then ask, when you do your net billing, right, that would mean that in peak, you are looking at 187.05 plus or plus minus one, yeah, the difference between that essentially, which
Yes,
would be 67, right?
yes,
Or 66 point whatever.
yes,
So that would mean that is the difference in terms of what I'm paying for.
yes. So my credit at peak on my bill will be 120.69.
Yes.
Yeah.
So what I'm trying to arrive at is what gets credited to you for the next month, right? So if I'm assuming you do the addition of all of these, right?
Yes, yes, of course.
Which then gives you total energy cost at 417.
At 417, yeah.
And then at 417, it's already multiplied, right? So that then becomes your bill for next month.
This one, the 417.
Yes, I'm asking. Yes.
Oh, no. This is my bill for this month. Right? Think about it like this. Let me finish, colleague. All right. So
Sure.
I've done the energy, right? So I said, this is my consumption, right? These are my total credits in rands, right? And I summate all of this, it is 417.76. So I'm crediting against my energy rates. But remember, my bill also includes a capacity charge and a basic charge, right? So my total bill is going to be basic charge, capacity charge, plus the total energy cost that already takes into account my credits in the green rows, if I'm making sense. So, colleagues, are we together? So this is a bill.
Yes, sir. No, it makes sense.
Yes, bill, one customer pays fixed charges, pays a basic charge and a capacity charge, right? Then on a time of use basis, then they have energy charges for their consumption on a time of use. Then they get credited also on a time of use basis, based on the screenshot I have here. Then the total energy cost then, now that I've calculated all of that, I've calculated the total consumption, what is costing me, I've calculated the total exports, how much that is costing me, then I get a final energy cost, right? Which is 417.76, right? And then after that, what then I do, I remember that I only offset my energy against my energy costs. I still remember I still have to pay for my fixed costs, which is then basic charge plus capacity charge plus total energy cost, which then gives my subtotal as per the rules. colleagues, I must say this, né? We are still going to play around a lot with, so I was just showing you an example how bills are, but we are still going to play a lot around how do we design these tariffs, you know? And then after, at the end of the week, we will all look at this example again with much more understanding. But I think let us leave it here now, but let us keep it at the back of our mind as we proceed through the week. We must always come back to interrogate this table to say, okay, now that we've done all of this, what are the implications on that table that you showed me on Monday? You know, we must at least leave here with the understanding of this table, of this bill. All right. Okay.
Before we move, could I just ask 2 questions quickly?
No problem.
What is, so that means if a customer is banking export energy to the next month, does that mean the system needs to record that so that it can be added to the next month?
Yes.
The first one. So ultimately, a customer where there is not enough for the new month, the banking might assist the customer to get the benefit at the end of the day.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Thank you.
So the banking will be credited in the next month. So it will be used to reduce the bill of the next month and so on. All right. Are you satisfied there before I take a couple of questions? Because no, colleagues, don't put your hands down. It's fine. You can ask the questions. I just want to make sure the colleague is
I just wanted to say that
satisfied.
I'm realizing that essentially the customer will always be paying, but might be paying less. But it may never be that the municipality owes that guy money.
Never.
Yes.
Never.
So that's what I wanted to understand. So it's clicking now that the municipality has built the system in such a way that the customer can only save, but not necessarily generate revenue, which makes complete sense. Thank you.
Excellent. Roak, input from you, sir. Welcome.
Thanks, Anna, for that. Maybe just some clarity also. There's normally a winter tariff and a summer tariff that's included on NMBM. In terms of comparing the peak which is purchased and the peak which is going to be exported, should we also take that into consideration? So we'll only be calculating winter with winter or comparing winter with winter, and then comparing only the summer with the summer as opposed to the full financial year, because the tariffs will change between summer and winter. Thank you.
It doesn't say, right? The rules don't say. So that is up for interpretation, right? So the rules say you bank throughout the year. So you bank for the next billing period. So the next billing period can either be a summer or a winter, right? So I think this is then the prerogative of the municipality, but the rules don't say anything about seasonality. They talk about billing periods. And in the municipality, you know, you are going to have seasonal tariffs. You're going to have tariffs for summer, you're going to have tariffs for winter, you know? So there, Roak, yeah, I think that is open for interpretation on your side. You can continue just with the banking. At some point, in my mind, the banking, what's in the bank might deplete as the sun goes down. And most of our customers anyway, the bigger ones, they would rather have a battery before they give you back any of their excess. So I think sometime in winter, the banking might deplete, but of course, it can still, if you've exported lots in summer, you might have lots of banking. But yeah, I think maybe think about how you set your export credits for the different seasons, you know, where you know that you can potentially have a high export credit in winter, you know, which maybe you might not like so much, considering all of the banked energy that's going to come from summer to winter. But the rules are not clear about that, Roa. So you must take a more sensible approach. I'm not sure how other Munichs have done it. If they've done it before, maybe they can advise you. Okay, Roak, but the rules don't say anything about seasonality. But William, over to you. Yes, over to you.
No, thanks, Sunil. I also just have to. Oh, thanks, Sunil. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
I also just have. Yes, I also just have two questions. One is linked to the one of. If you go back to the spreadsheet, one is linked to the one of the question of Roak. Can you, if you just return to the spreadsheet?
Okay.
I just want to when I look at the spreadsheet, the banked credits that you carry over to the next month, it is not split in terms of peak, standard or off peak. So because it's just the total, the bank total. So I just want to know that bank total, must it also be banked in the same proportion in terms of which relates to peak hour standard and off peak hours. So that's my first question. Whether the banking must take the same as the way it was banked, must it also be split the same if it's carried over to the next month? And my second question is just though, essentially, so a customer that constantly have a net, that constantly have net billing, constantly come here financial year, and that customer sits with a lot of bank credits, which it's going to lose. So essentially, is it going to, if I have to put it like that, sorry for being an accountant, is that customer essentially going to donate that net energy to the municipality? Which municipality will, of course, be selling to other clients?
Yes, the right word to use, donate. Yes, I like that word. They are going to donate, because if they've banked up until the final day of the financial year, then the next financial year needs to start to zero. Any excess that they may have is still going. Any excess that they may have at the end of the financial year is going to be forfeited. They are going to forfeit it, right? I hope that answers that question. And with the banking, so for example, I've done a quick calculation here of like how much the customer would bank, for example. Let me put a zero here. How much they would bank. They would bank in the peak and standard periods, right? Because they send back to the grid more than they consume. That's the banking, right? So the rules then don't articulate how the banking must be allocated in the next year, in the next billing month, right? It doesn't say. But of course, in my mind, right, it's not in the rules, but in my mind, it makes sense that if you have banked at a certain time of use, right, even in the following month, you allocate that banking to that time of use. Right. If we follow the rationale or the thinking here, you don't take the entire bank and say, okay, I'm applying an average or whatever the case may be. If I'm banking in standard time, I take over to the next month and bank and use that banked in standard time, pretty much, right? So that would be my thinking, but it's not clear in the rules. How do we then allocate the banks, the banked kilowatt hours into the next month? I hope that helps. I hope the team, we must take note of some of these questions that where there is a gray area in the rules. We must take note of these so that we can ask the people that have written these rules. But thank you for that question. It doesn't say, it's not clear. But in my mind, I would think like that to say, if I'm banking in a certain time, I must continue in that certain time until such a time I've reached the end of the financial year, and you forfeit that bank in that time of use. All right. Any more questions, colleagues?
Just a quick follow-up, Sunil. So what then, say if you have bank credits, and yes, I hear that you say the rules are not clear on that, but if you have bank credits from the municipality point of view, how do you apply then the bank credits that was rolled over to the next time? To the most favorable to the client or most favorable to the municipality in terms of peak or standard? How do you apply the credits there?
So from a favorability perspective, so which one is best? So for example, if let's think about this. So if I apply into the next month, I apply, for example, this banking, I apply it in standard use, right? Into the next month. Then I'm gonna add to the export of that month. But I know for sure that that customer, the total credited amount is always dictated by the consumption of the customer. So it's never more than the consumption. So there's never going to be a time where the municipality finds itself maybe in a situation that is not beneficial to them, because the crediting is always going to be limited by the customer's consumption. It doesn't matter if they bank 1 million, but if they use 20 kilowatt hours, then you can only credit for 20 kilowatt hours until such a time they forfeit that banking. But of course, to make sure as a municipality, like we've already said earlier on, that you are less susceptible to volumetric risk, right? As customers use less and less from you, is to have such tariffs, to have a basic and a capacity charge informed by a cost of supply, meaning that if this customer uses 0 kilowatt hours from you as a municipality, you should be able to recover from that customer sufficient revenue to continue sustainably serving that customer, you know? So it's critical to have these fixed costs to then make yourself less susceptible to that volumetric risk. So I hope I've answered your questions, your 2 questions. Yeah, I hope so. But of course, colleagues, this is introduction day. I'm going to take 1 question more. This is introduction day. We are going to start to crunch the numbers, interrogate deeply a lot of the questions that you've asked. We see whether they are practical or not. So we will continue to ask each other these questions throughout the week. But today, of course, we are just introducing. Stanley, over to you. Maybe that must be the last question I ask, colleagues.
Yes, thank you. I've got 2 questions. The first question, your banking, do you do banking each month when you run your billing, or is as per customer's request? And then the second question is your tariffs. NERSA needs your cost of supply for consumption tariffs. So when you do your export tariff, what determines that? Do you also need a cost of supply? And does it have to be less than the normal your normal tariffs on consumption?
Thank you for those questions, Stanley. The banking, you do it as a municipality every billing period. It's not on a customer request. You do your billing reconciliations. If there is something to be banked, you move over to the next month, right? So that it's not on customer request. And secondly, with the tariffs, all tariffs, electricity tariffs must be supported by a cost of supply study. So consumption tariffs, cost of supply, export tariffs, there must be a cost of supply study. But of course, to determine the export tariff itself, we are going to show you tomorrow. How do you determine that? But when you go to NERSA and say, okay, these are my export tariffs, you must show NERSA that you have done a cost of supply study as per the rules themselves. I hope that is clear.
No, thank you.
Cool. But colleagues, we are going to play a lot around with these numbers. We're going to interrogate them extensively, so, you know. So let us at least rest assured tonight that tomorrow we'll get into the details. I think, of course, if I go back to my colleagues, I think I'm a bit behind, yeah? The colleagues will fight with me. Zibu, how many questions do you have there for a quick quiz, sir? because I'm thinking might have to prioritize data requirements.
I think I had about 8 or so, but I think looking at our time, we could, we could jump into the data requirements also.
Let us do this. Let us do it's fine. Can you do it in 5 or 10 minutes?
We could try. We could try.
Let's do it. Let's do it. I think I've overloaded colleagues with some information. We need a breather before we do the final session. Okay, over to you for a quick fun thing.
All right, colleagues. So we are quickly going to play a Kahoot. I hope that maybe some of us might be familiar. I'm going to share my screen. Basically, what you would need, okay, there's a hand fill. Vuyani, I don't know if that hand is for before or if it's a legacy hand.
Hi there. Tell me the tool, SCCG, when is that going to be made available, or where can I download it from?
You can respond, Zibu, to that one.
All right, so the tool will be shared with all of us, maybe after this last session that we're going to go in. After we discuss the data requirements, then we can share the tool either then, or it can be shared already tomorrow. So it'll be shared with all the colleagues in the groups. All right, thank you so much. Let me quickly share my screen, colleagues. Maybe let me do this. All right, I'm going to share my screen and maybe let me know if we are able to. Okay, to see it. I'm going to do this. Teams it's not cooperating. Okay, no, maybe this is not the screen I wanted to share. All right. Are we able to see this, colleagues? Are we able to see the screen? Just confirm.
We can see it, but then it's pixelating.
Okay. No, it's fine. I think then if it's pixelating, then this might disturb us for the rest of what we planned. Maybe now we could jump into the data requirements check, and then we'll see if we can host this either tomorrow or afterwards on a better Teams. Okay. Now,
Zibu.
Yes, over to you, man. I was saying that the screen is pixelating, so it will definitely make it very difficult to run. So we could maybe jump into the data check session.
Okay. No problem. We'll see the fun stuff at a later stage. So, colleagues, the final thing then we need to do for today, right? We need to do a quick data requirements check, right? This data requirements check session, let me just share my screen quickly. This data requirements check session, main purpose is firstly to allocate ourselves into our respective groups, where we will be doing the relevant modeling for the remainder of the week. So we are going to do it in group work. I think one of my colleagues will have access to the different types of groups. So we are going to create rooms in Teams. We want to test that out today, make sure it works. And then in those groups, we just want to have a quick chat around the data that is required. So the 2023-2024 municipal electricity tariffs, so your tariff book for that year, your financial information deforms for that particular year, you know, because essentially if you identify a customer where you want to introduce an embedded generation tariff, right? We must know how many customers are those with that kind of tariff, and also how much kilowatt hours are you selling to those particular customers. So a deform is usually an easier way to determine that. But of course, if you've got lots and lots of tariffs and in your deform, you consolidate different types of tariffs, it would be useful when you come tomorrow to know exactly the number of number of customers in the customer category where you want to introduce this tariff. And then also know the sales, right? The sales of that tariff to that customer in that particular year. Why do we choose 2023, 2024? Because this is a financial year where we have 12 months completed data, right? So it sort of serves as a decent baseline. We want to avoid assumptions. And once we've developed our relevant tariffs, we can then escalate them in line with the various ESCOM increases, with the ESCOM increase for this year and the one for next year, right? But we just use 2023, 2024 because we want a wholesome financial year. All right. And then because we are developing an avoided cost, so an export credit. So meaning that you want to develop a cost for an energy. You want to develop cost for energy or cost for exported energy that is slightly lesser than ESCOM costs for energy. So each municipality, then we would need to know what is your average ESCOM costs, ESCOM purchase cost, right? ESCOM energy bulk purchase cost per POD. Because what we want there is to say, okay, what is the percentage split in terms of your total overall bulk purchases? Which ones are charged at this tariff? Which ones are charged at that tariff? Which ones are charged at that tariff? So that's what we are going to do in our smaller groups, just to discuss those data requirements. They are mostly important for tomorrow, colleagues. But now I think let us test out these groups of ours, make sure they work. Everyone leaves that group knowing exactly what they need to have tomorrow morning. And then that would be our day, colleagues. So my team that is responsible for this type of control room, please assist me.
Okay, good afternoon, everyone. So we've opened up the breakaway rooms. So there are 4 breakaway rooms which we've assigned for the different provinces. If you could please locate the breakaway room which your province has been assigned to, and then one of our facilitators will assist you from there. So just for those who might be having trouble, in room 1, we've got Eastern Cape. Room 2 is Free State and KZN. Room 3 is Northern Cape, Gauteng, and the Northwest. And then room 4 is Limpopo, Mpumalanga, and the Western Cape. So please join one of those groups, one of those rooms. If you are having trouble, please just stay on the call in the main room, and then we will assist you. And Sinawa, just to say, can people be dismissed?